Absolutely.
Even
I did kids time that it's recorded at those things. Kind of, but not in person.
always love to have you doing something.
Yes, I think I have liturgy next,
Okay.
and then I'm preaching on the 25th again,
Oh, 25th of,
August, which is a couple weeks.
yeah.
I got on a roll. I went ahead and wrote half my sermon the other day, which is not like me. I'm more of a last minute kind of girl, but
Yeah. Now, will it still be Olympic themed or is it moving on to another?
what's in your backpack?
Oh, okay.
It'll
That's
be the back to
that's
school.
kickoff.
Yeah. Yeah, for August. Yeah.
We love it when y'all get a rich.
Yes,
It makes the biggest difference.
helpful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sunday, Saturday night and Sunday morning, much easier for us when they're written.
Yes. Well, and often
Friday night
I
always.
get them from whoever on like Friday and I'm not in the office and then I have to get back to my computer because I can't forward my phone. It won't pull up the list, you know.
Yeah.
I have like a contact list. I send it to them.
Well, but
Today, Reverend Collins.
Yes. I think he's just finishing up his first round. We'll have him practice. I'm gonna make sure everybody makes their way.
Thank you. What you gonna do?
How you doing? Good to see you.
See,
Now,
you're out.
oops,
yeah, you're no name.
that way.
At least the other way you didn't know. You remember who did what. But nobody else would know.
People have started calling me AI by accident. They don't. At restaurants or like pickup. Got an order for AI?
That's so funny.
That's funny.
That is.
Oh, I think we're gonna,
It does.
I think.
It does, yeah.
We're gonna put AI.
Uh-huh, yeah.
My brother, my father, were Albert,
I'm Albert.
and they were called Al. So I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah.
My mother called me Albert. French twist.
Now, is that when she was, that was not the, like, when she was angry with you? It was just
No.
that was a
That was
term of endearment.
Pretty much what she called. She was sweet.
Oh, wow.
Was she French in background?
She had school, but I think she, I don't know if she had her fluent in it, but she knew it. She was not French by
By
birth or
heredity.
anything, heredity. But the name Reeves is a French, Reeve gauche,
Oh, okay.
the back of the river.
Yeah.
Have they been out? They've been out.
I don't know. I don't know how long it's. I think they are out, but they're very slow coming yesterday. or just last time.
Usually a pretty good stream.
Yeah.
You want me to look?
I think Katie went out to shoot or encourage. But Corey's just out now too, so.
Yeah. Sounds good.
The first service would just be now.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
have
finish
it
it.
now. They're still going.
Good morning.
They must
Yeah.
make it go. Thank you for your good work. Very helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, that's big.
Yeah, yeah. And evidently. I can't imagine.
I've heard people. That one sometimes. Other times you just like they.
Yeah, I think you could end up in a really weird spot.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's good to have that.
No,
I'm not just not aware.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree.
And I think it's hard when you have to do it twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go tell them. All but-
It do extra.
Yeah. Like there was a
Yeah.
Towards the front so you can. Hey, Carl. Good to see you. Going through presentation.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is. Hey, Carl.
How are you?
Hi, good to see you.
Yeah, just saw you right out in the gathering space. Good to see you. Yes, she's doing a great job. No notes.
She's good at that.
You know, Carl.
Right. Sarah's parents. I knew each other very well. And I said, they would talk. So Sarah. Sure.
Better.
Was that wrong?
That's not here.
How are you?
See,
Yeah, it's back.
she's at the green.
Oh, good. That's
So
actually
I
nice.
greet you, you.
Yeah.
that's here.
I hear you.
Look at mine.
Yeah, I'm
That is-
next. I need them.
They were. Banking. What is it?
Yeah. You missed a lot. Well, I'm on the front end.
Yeah.
You know, earrings. You get to be a certain age and, you're lucky enough to not have an issue yet. They're serving them up.
What days? Yeah, I gotta get a raise on days, so.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Debbie Case. I want to welcome you to our next edition of our summer Sunday school program, Demystifying Disabilities. Before we get into this week's, I want to tell you what's coming up next week. Next week, we have Shana Askew, Executive Director of the Disability Advocacy Center, which focuses on 5 core services for anyone with a disability. It includes information and referrals, systems and individual advocacy, independent living skills training, institutional and youth transition support, and peer counseling. So that's what's up for next week. This week, I'm very pleased to welcome our own Corey Phillips and his friends from Peace Haven. Corey is Director of Advancement at Peace Haven, and I'm going to let him introduce everyone else who is here and tell us a little bit about what Peace Haven does.
Good morning. I'm not used to being tethered to a podium, so I shall do my best. If I had it my way, I'd be sitting in most of your laps. Thanks for carving out some time today and spending time with our friends from Peace Haven. I will do my best to go through introductions. Dana Roseborough is our Director of Programs. Many of you who've been out to the farm before recognize Dana. 3 of our 5 core members are with us, Autumn and Ben and Adam. Thanks for being here, everyone. And they wouldn't be here without one of our home life leaders, the wonderful Jen Kleiber. So Jen, thanks for being here. And Neil was here. There he is. And Neil, my stunt double Neil is there in the middle. And then Elizabeth, yes, in the back, like a good Baptist. I don't even know if you wrapped it. Thanks for carving out time. We're really excited to be here today. What I thought we would do on the front end is share a little housekeeping. I'm very casual in my presentations. Don't even consider this a presentation, but rather a conversation. So if you have questions along the way, throw a hand up. You're not going to interrupt me. Ben, thank you for the visual. Appreciate that. And secondly, we're going to kind of bounce around, but what I thought we would do is share our story, share some other stories and where we came from and why. And then we would end with a video and some questions and answers if you have them. Sound good? I think that appeases all the type A personalities now that you know what we're doing for our time together. I'll start with a quick story about a chef all the way in Tokyo, Japan. His name is Shohei Otani. He went and visited a home for a memory care facility, rather, and was really downhearted by how we had put people in another place away from society. And he thought that wasn't okay. And so he opened a restaurant where he hired these folks, all of which were suffering from various degrees of memory loss, and yet were required, because their role was that of servers and waiters and waitresses, to function at a high memory level. And 38% of the time, the orders came out wrong. But 99% of the time, people left happy, because of course they did. And it's all because somebody had a vision of it's not okay to put people away. We are called to be in community together, just like Pastor Garrett shared today. That was not planned, so that was great. And so that really takes us to the why of Peace Haven. Am I okay to drive just by clicking?
Yeah. I think that was
Lovely, thank you. We came from a place where when we learn that someone has an intellectual or developmental disability, especially as parents, that we want to do anything we can to clear the path forth so that the horizon is theirs just as much as it is ours. And so to kind of bring you into our world, you'll hear me say intellectual developmental disabilities a lot. We only have a set amount of time together, so I'm going to condense it to IDD, or the IDD community. Everybody okay with that? Thank you for nodding your head. The reality is that wonderful horizon at the age of 22 stops for the IDD community more often than not, because things like federal programs, resources, the things that we benefit in our quote unquote normal lives end around the age of 22. And what happens is you approach that cliff and it winds up that you are now having to either turn around and go back home and live home, or find an option, which again takes me back to the memory care facility that inspired the chef to move forward together rather than leave people in the shadows and tucked away. So there were two families back in the early 2000s that came together, both of which were raising children who were going to become adults before they knew it. And we're not okay with this being the option, that they come home, they're isolated, the family knows how to raise them, but when they go outside to the real world, it gets very difficult. And so what can we do to create a space where our children and other children can thrive beyond this age? And that was the birth of Peace Haven. Peace Haven sits on a beautiful rolling farmlands just outside of Whitsett. Raise hands if you've been there. I know we had a group just yesterday. Wonderful. I'm literally preaching to the choir right now. And so that space exists on 89 acres of land. Currently, we operate on 8 acres. In 2014, we opened a home called Susan's View. And that allowed us to open our doors to 5 of our core members, which has been really exciting. But when we're talking about folks that are approaching that cliff, it's not just the IDD individual themselves. It's their care providers, it's their families. And so very, very quickly, you can see within just a 50-mile radius around our farm in Whitsett, once we include the family and the caregiver, automatically we're talking about 350,000 people that are towing the line of that cliff. And so the Cochrans, Buck and Kathy Cochran, and the Elliots, Tim and Susan, were not okay with that. And frankly, those of us who are at Peace Haven today are still not okay with that. And that fuels our work. I don't read slides, by the way, so if you want me to come back to this later, I will, and let you read it. It started to give them Susan's View, and Susan's View is this beautiful home that sits up on the hill above our barn and is home to our 5 core members. And I thought I had a busy schedule in my life. I've never seen a busier group of individuals that are off conquering the world as our core members. And that doesn't happen magically. It happens with a lot of love and attention and care. Jen, if you wouldn't mind, a few moments just about life in the house and outside of the house for that matter.
Sure. Hello, I'm Jen. My official title is home life leader, but I'm kind of like a house mom. And my coworker Daryl is kind of like the house dad, and we kind of trade off shift. And anyway, so it's wonderful being in the home with the core members. We have a lot of people come and visit us. For example, UNC Chapel Hill and the chef staff and cooking staff there came to teach us like some basic cooking skills and to prepare a meal for us that we all enjoyed together. We had a pet portrait painting workshop recently, and so there's lots of opportunities to come and visit. Sometimes we just go for a walk to the lake on the property, and that's nice too. So it can be planned or casual. And then we also do a lot of outings, like the Transportation Museum, the Burlington City Park, the Natural Science Center. And we spend a lot of time doing, I would say, activities with Alamance County, especially the Special Olympics and Alamance Air, which is adaptive and inclusive recreation. And then also Greensboro Air, Greensboro Parks and Recs. They do a lot of different activities that we participate in. And so we kind of travel all over the area, I would say, over in Raleigh, Cary, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, Burlington. We get around. So if there's anything that you guys would be interested in participating with us, we had recently someone invited us out to go to the art museum in Raleigh with them, and that was a blast. And so if you ever are looking for something to do and want a cool group of people to hang out with, let us know.
Make this smaller real quick, sorry.
You're good. So we've learned through opening Susan's View's doors, which by the way is about to celebrate 10 years or begin our 10-year celebration. It opened its doors in 2014. A lot of you in this room were a part of that through Habitat for Humanity. So those partnerships really matter. Just like we can all attest, life's a lot easier with people like you. And so it's who you know and how you treat them. And fortunately, we've had a lot of folks that have treated us very, very well throughout the years. And that community only continues to grow. So we've learned in inviting more and more folk onto the farm that we have this really big calling to extend ourselves beyond the farm. You just heard Jen give a very short list of all the things that they do on and off the farm. But in order to build this idea of an all-inclusive community, we needed folks to come and visit us as well. And it started with our garden work days. That was the first magnet that we found that drew folks out to our land and digging in the dirt and finding out that we have more in common than we do that separates us, which I know is a bit of a cliche, but I don't see it happen more often than on the farm. And so folks are invited out every Sunday during the growing season. And it's just this magical place to really dig in the dirt. Jeff says it best, I think. It's a magical place where dreams come true. I always argue that the beauty of the farm is wherever you're coming from, this land has this amazing way to provide to you whatever it is you need, whether you know it or not. If you're there just to find respite, it has a space for that. If you're there to be in community, it has a space for that. If you're there to laugh and enjoy yourself, we've got Ben. So exactly. And a lot of great partnerships happen there too. There's plenty of cheesy analogies I can make about growing in the dirt and developing and growing together. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's a dear friend of mine, James, who came out to the farm to share his experience in growing things in areas of town that should not be growing. He's an expert urban farmer who's very passionate about making sure folks are not hungry, and came out and found a new way to feed our audience. And worked together with our farmer JB there in the dirt, and it didn't just benefit us, it benefited everyone who was there. And so we're always trying to find intersections like that so that we can provide opportunity for others to find their purpose. And that takes me to our next phase of expansion was, how do we provide programs and opportunities? If these things are ending at 22, what can we do to make sure there is a bridge off of that cliff rather than a drop? And so the program department was developed to provide these opportunities and figure out what it was we can do to be an asset in the community. And one of those is RISE. And Autumn is one of our first graduates from our RISE cohort last year. So congratulations. Dana, do you want to speak to programs and RISE a little bit? that would be wonderful.
Good morning. The mission at Peace Haven is to connect people of all abilities through living, learning, work, and play. And so housing kind of takes care of that living, but programs takes care of the learning, work, and play portion. And so we have several things in our programs department. RISE is one. It is a job skills preparation program for adults with disabilities. It's not that we actually find a job at this time. Right now, we're providing those soft skills and then using farming as kind of that base of the skills development and the work in any given session. And like I said, Autumn was a graduate or is a graduate of that program. Our hope in the future is that as Peace Haven expands and we have our future community center and we expand our agriculture and we have a market and we have a cafe, that this will be the entry point into employment at Peace Haven. Another aspect of programming that we have is our fiber arts program. And so that's an opportunity to use wool from sheep to create products. We have several people in this church who help with that program. Ann Wren is our lead volunteer. She comes on Wednesday mornings, works with our core members. And then we have our RISE participants sometimes work with that. And then she has people come to her home on Tuesday nights. And adults come to her home and help with those items. And then we've started having Thursday mornings. It was every other Thursday. It's getting ready to start to be every Thursday where another group comes to the farm to work on fiber arts. And then we sell those items on our Etsy store and in person at different activities, things in the community like the Dogwood Festival, different opportunities here in Greensboro that we've had. And then all that money goes right back into the program. We also have workshops. Jen mentioned the pet portraits workshop that we recently had. We have those monthly, and that's an opportunity for people of all abilities to come out and learn some skill. The picture of what was it, James Gardner from the gardening workshop we had, one of those plants that he had in his hand. I'm a person who kills every plant I have ever touched. So I really paid attention at workshop and took 2 of the plants home, and they literally grew so well. They overtook all of my flower beds, and I had to finally trim them back yesterday. So that you will learn something if you come to one of our programs. And then we started having social activities. So these are open to anyone of any ability, but they are focused more towards the IDD community. And they are totally free. We've had a tea party. We had a Valentine's party. We recently had a trip to the art museum in Raleigh. They are actually starting to coordinate with us and plan activities for people with disabilities. We are having an art show in Greensboro. I'm going to go ahead and mention it, put a plug in. It's at the Greensboro Project Space off of, I think it's February Avenue off of Elm Street. And it's at the end of the month. We're going to have artists from Peace Haven, but also from other people in the community there. We'd love for you to come out. I think it's the 27th through the 31st. Love for you to come and just see all that we have done and accomplished this year. And I would say, before you asked me to say, what does it mean to the families of folks with IDD to have these programs? I think it provides community and relationships. So often people are isolated, and with our programs that are open to everyone, it just really builds that community of people of all abilities together. So please come out and join us again. Those of you who came yesterday, thank you. And we'd love to have you anytime.
So it's been really fun as we explore what we're capable of doing just through the power of connection to find out all the things we've never even thought of. More often than not, a lot of our next big thing has come from somebody who is outside the Peace Haven family and shared an idea with us, or more so, shared a wish or a want or a need with us. And those are the seeds that we like to plant to figure out what we can do with together. Dana shared our current mission, which is to connect people of all abilities through shared living, learning, work, and play. And it's exciting, probably the most exciting time to be at Peace Haven with that in mind. Because when we started, it was very much, how can we connect the IDD community with the larger community? And now it's more, now that we're together, what's the next big thing? And so I shared with you, those of you who have been to the farm, we are currently on 89 acres, but we're only operating the front 8. So if you've come out to the farm, unless you've had a gator tour, you've seen our front 8 acres. And it's been really exciting to look back at this land that at one point was deemed fallow and unable to grow anything, and see what we can grow in order to answer the need of just the 350,000 folks in that 50-mile radius, and hopes that we can grow beyond that too. And so what I thought I would do is invite Neil to join me and share a little bit of high level of our crazy big dream, right, for the future. And what we can do, we talked about a magnet earlier, to draw people of all abilities to the farm and see what happens next. So it's terrifying and exciting. And rather than me talk about it, I'll let you do that.
Well, we have a type at Peace Haven, if you haven't noticed. So if you do move to Peace Haven or come work with us, just beware, you may end up taking on the uniform. We are incredibly grateful that you would have us here today, and we're so excited about what's to come here at Peace Haven. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is the fact that what we are developing now is not just for people with an IDD. Pastor Garrett, is that right, said this morning at the end of the sermon, I was like, wow, Corey must have told him what to say, but apparently you didn't, it's about community, right? Not about isolation. We've got to move from this place of anyone being isolated. And so we're so excited that this vision here that we have is a community that is all about people being together. It's about fighting isolation. It's fighting isolation for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's fighting isolation for people that have family members with an IDD. It's about fighting isolation for you. And so what you see here, and maybe when it comes up, I'll point again too, so I know the folks on Zoom can't see it right now. But so there we go. So you'll see this cul-de-sac. For those of you that maybe can see me pointing to that, hopefully the Zoom folks can see that too, is our next phase of housing where not just people with an IDD will live, but people of all abilities will live together. But first, what we're so excited to build is the community center. And there it is. And so we are right now in a capital campaign called Different Together to raise money to build this 24,000 square foot community center, which is all about exactly what you might believe it's about with the name, community. So a couple of things that will happen in this building: co-working, a cafe, classroom spaces, fitness spaces, event rentals, and spaces for weddings, and Wickerbach there on the lawn, and all sorts of different ways that we all come together in community. And is this just going to cycle through, I think? Or you're cycling through.
Oh.
Perfect. So this classroom that you see here is just an example of different ways that we create integrated and multi-use spaces. There's several different things and you can just go through these. I won't talk about all of them because we don't have a lot of time, but there's the co-working space that we mentioned. If you're not familiar with that concept, it's a place where community happens. You don't have to be working for the same community. You do whatever you need to do. You don't have to be working with the same company or the same organization, but you might rent a space to come and just be in community so that you don't have to work out of your house by yourself. Other things that we have here, this beautiful cafe space. If you saw in the middle, we have a kind of a silo sticking up through the building, and that cafe counter will be there in the middle of that silo space. This event space, we hope that you'll come host your parties, your weddings, and corporate retreats, all sorts of things like that.
That might be your last event.
And that's my last event. Yeah. So I'll be quiet now and let Corey get back to this. He's a real professional at this sort of thing. But if any of you have questions, you know where to find us. And if you get confused with who I am from Carl here, I know I've seen some pictures where we share very similar profiles, at least from the back. So you can find any of us through Corey or Carl, and we would just absolutely love to talk to you more about this.
Thanks, sir. So it's super exciting because we talked on the front end about what it looked like to take care of 2 growing children, and then 5 of our core members. And now it's the hundreds of folks who visit the farm, and soon to be thousands. And as that need continues to grow, we're able to not only answer it, but be ahead of it and provide a waypoint to what happens when we outgrow this farm. And that's what we hope happens. Whatever we do, whether it's the community center, whether it's housing, whether it's the potential of a maker space, whether it's the growth of our farm and agriculture. We want to be able to hand those keys over to the next group of folks that are seeking to provide in their community, so that the secrets that we learn don't stay secrets. In fact, as an advancement, my number one goal is to make sure all of this is the worst kept secret in North Carolina, because there are so many people out there and families out there that don't even know that we exist, that are seeking for what we have. And through moments like this, the value of being in front of you and sharing what we're trying to accomplish, those stories can be told elsewhere beyond what we're capable of doing as our individual selves. So feel free to share with the whole world what we're up to, because somebody out there is in need. And we're not okay with that not being met, which has always been the exciting time of Peace Haven. Katie, I'm going to play a video in just a minute, but I don't want to, there's no pressure there. So I'm just going to stand here and stare at you while you do
I
that.
know.
As Neil mentioned, we'll leave space here in a moment for questions and answers. I just want to remind everyone that this all began with the vision of Buck and Kathy Cochran and the Elliots, who were all members of a sister church at Westminster. And so being in front of these congregational groups like this is really exciting because of the fact that that's where it all started. And that one congregation became connectivity between themselves and all the organizations in Greensboro and beyond to help us achieve Susan's view, to help us figure out what it looks like to bring groups out to the farm and to understand how we can be better stewards of what we're trying to accomplish. Before we jump into our final moment, which is our why we're doing all of these things, are there any immediate questions? Yes, sir.
What's the outreach from the project fundraising? How do people find out about it?
Sure. We had a wonderful event back on May 2nd. So if you want to hop into my DeLorean, I could take you back there. We have our website, peacehavenfarm.org. Will link you to our Different Together campaign. We are currently almost at the halfway mark of raising $12 million, which is incredibly exciting because as that continues to find success, phase 2, we'll call it with air quotes, which is the housing need, may become phase 1.5. It really is, the future is wide open. We are building this plane as we fly it, which is terrifying and exciting all at the same time. But what motivates us to get to the community center first, rather than housing, because we all know there is a need for housing, is the housing. I feel the way I describe it is the housing will make you happy. It's this idea of happiness and joy. Housing is happy. But if there's not a purpose, if there's not a why, then how can we provide the joy? And so that's why the community center has been placed first, so that all of those spaces and more that Neil showed you will be the magnet that draws people out to help them find what they are seeking. If they want to paint, they can paint. If they want to learn to do more yoga, they can do yoga. We have a recording studio, for example. One of our core members has an amazing podcast. So why not make those spaces for others to achieve that as well? So peacehavenfarm.org will get you there. Otherwise, call me. We'll give you a tour of the farm anytime. And so that's been super exciting. Did that answer your question? Thank you. I saw another hand. Yes, sir. Say that. Is there a what one more time? Yeah, great question. So this is super exciting. We have a lot of great partnerships. Dana mentioned our fiber arts. And in fact, Elizabeth brought some great examples of what those are. Not only is it a great way for people to come together and create them, but it becomes a sellable, if you will, revenue stream for development of further ideas. We also, we use our produce. We're going to step into the realm of being more engaged with farmers markets. Currently, we have a beautiful partnership with Backpack Beginnings, where we provide a lot of the produce that goes home to our students in Guilford County and beyond. So that's exciting too. You'll see as we open our doors to that community center, all the possibilities. Another exciting thing that I didn't mention is the idea of jobs. We talked about RISE and preparing folks for their next level of employment. Autumn's a beautiful example of someone who's passionate about organization and reading. Her library collection is a thing to be beheld. Autumn would love to find a role in a library. And so as we can bring people into the community center and give them that delicious cup of coffee or that tasty sandwich or host the most amazing wedding they've ever seen, all the while, we've kind of flipped the script with this reverse inclusivity where we have jobs, and it just so happens this wonderful cup of coffee was served to me by someone with an IDD. You've all, I think all of you, many of you went to Special Blend. a few weeks ago. That's a perfect example of what we want to replicate, and we're learning from them. So there's another example of giving away the keys to the things that you've learned. Did that help? I'll play this and then we'll dive back into it. We'll kind of leave the rest of our time to answer any questions, and all of us would love to answer them.
When you're a parent of a child with special needs, there's always the cloud over your head that there's going to come a time when you're not available.
I have spent many, many nights laying awake, wondering how I could live forever.
And they're going to need their own loving community where they can grow and develop and have a meaningful life.
Once I came to visit Peace Haven, I became very emotional. And that was just a seismic shift for the reality of the future.
You come in and no matter where you come in from, there's a sense of that community and understanding that you might not have in public.
Then people come out and say, hey, what's this Peace Haven place? Well, I say it's a magical place to come to.
Peace Haven in its origin is really a remarkable time.
It came from a business transaction, came from story to tell, came from a cancer diagnosis, it came from an unemployed preacher.
And we started kind of dreaming about what might be possible if we were able to come together and create a housing community for adults with intellectual disabilities. What if we set this community on a farm, providing a place where people of all abilities, people of all gifts can come out and find a place that they can belong to?
We're in the middle of nowhere. And yet we have this full potential and are living into the full potential of building community where everybody thrives.
We're sitting in this barn right from 1930s. When this property was purchased, this barn was appraised, and there's a picture in our appraisal packet that says of no contributory value. And I think, man, what a beautiful allegory for what we do, seeing that there is purpose, there is value in each and every one of us.
My beautiful son Daniel, his situation and what he enjoyed was staying alone in his room. Peace Haven provided something quite unique. It allowed Daniel to see how his value in society, his major contributions, and it changed his trajectory to go out to the workforce.
The folks with disabilities just wanted a place to belong. And they found it with the folks that were coming out to volunteer and help and support them.
I said, but it's so nice to put us families together and hang out with friends and help people out.
When you put something in the ground and you see it growing and you harvest it, that's a pretty rewarding feeling.
It's not just about that seed to fruit. It's about all that in between, where we bring people together, we connect them, we empower them to do all these things.
But Peace Haven is the second family.
When we dig in the dirt, you have no idea if you're standing beside a billionaire or you're standing beside someone who has an idea. We're working in the dirt together to grow something that nourishes us all.
It's the agape, it's the love and support and the service that each person here gives to the next person. And those are the special moments.
It didn't matter who you are, what you look like, you was right.
My most exciting time at Peace Haven is right now. This is a place for learning and growth for everybody. It's been a thread that's been through Peace Haven since the beginning. But with the things that are happening now, with the plans for the future, it's something that's just going to be increased greatly.
I want to thank you for helping out as support, and we will step our part.
All right. Hey, nice job.
So I love that it ends on the barn because we just received some amazing news as we continue to share our story. A wonderful organization known as Trillium, who helps designate Medicaid dollars, found out about us and literally walked the property and came back with the question of, if you had X amount of dollars, I believe it was $100,000, what would you do with it? Don't overthink it, write a list, send us a picture of the list, and we got together and brainstormed over a director meeting and sent them that list. I guess they felt like it wasn't enough. And so I'll bore you with all the details, but as of now, almost almost $750,000 have been allocated. Oh, higher? All right, I'll just make up a number. $11 billion. We'll say 3/4 because my brain works easier that way, have been allocated to us to take the barn that has been the cornerstone of everything we've done and turn it into our long-term vision for it. We're talking about everything from more developed program space to a really great state-of-the-art meeting space for corporate groups to come out and experience Peace Haven, have day retreats and the like, churches to come out and sit with us for a while. Coffee shop, cafe, mercantile, produce store, so that we can fiddle and test in our little science lab now and be successful and fail forward small, so that when the doors of the community center open, we can really have a huge impact on the folks that are seeking a sense of belonging, which I think is everybody. That's what I love about the idea of people of all abilities. So I'll end there and invite you all to share any questions. We can keep this casual. We can meander through the room if you want, and everybody can address. But before that moment, just thank you so much for opening the doors and giving us an opportunity to share the stories of these 5 folks who have taught so much to all of us. I could go down the line. Maybe I will. Autumn and Ben are beautiful nonverbal communicators. Party. And I've learned to slow down and listen, truly listen what people have to share and say. So thank you for that. Adam is incredibly intelligent and wicked smart. And every time I get my ego gets too inflated, I get checked by Adam on the things that really matter and the things that you want to share with other people. So thank you guys for teaching me, and thank you all for allowing me to teach you a little bit. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
How much does it cost per year for each core member to live in the house?
I'm going to deflect that to my book guy. Did you hear the question?
Right now, we operate on a kind of sliding scale model. So there's a cost per rent, there's a cost of care. We subsidize that with $50. So it's what families pay is depending on what they can afford right now. As we move into the future phases, there will be different models and different ways that you might pay to live there. Because some folks won't have disabilities, there will just be a regular old rent. And some folks that will be using Medicaid dollars, some folks will be private pay, so there's a big mixture.
Do you mind summarizing for you? What you said?
Yeah, so it really just comes down to, I mentioned Trillium earlier. They've been wonderful, not only in their monetary support, but in their wisdom. Because one of the things Neil mentioned is if you do rely on Medicaid dollars to live with us, that didn't exist up until a few months ago. And it was really because of Ben that we went on that journey. Ben's family received what is called the innovations waiver, which was a colossal long wait. But then the reality came that Ben's number was drawn, and this question became, does Ben stay at Peace Haven and deny the Medicaid dollars that his family would benefit from, or does he leave Peace Haven and find a facility that can care for him and accept Medicaid dollars? And so that's why Trillium is so important to us. They helped us navigate accepting Medicaid and not losing our identity as Peace Haven, because we are very and so, yes, to summarize, it really does depend when someone comes to live at Peace Haven, what their need is and how we can meet that need. Because the idea of the neighborhood, the community, is that it's not just the IDD community, or else we would be doing a disservice to ourselves and our mission if we only said this group of people could live here, because then we've just built a group home on a pretty farm, and that's not what we're after.
It was about the video because it's really precise. It's very classic. It's just very professionally done. Who did it and how was it put together?
Yeah, it was a wonderful friend of ours that we met through Buck Cochran, actually, on a piece that was done on him years ago. He lives in Winston. His name is completely escaping me right now. Thank you, Cameron Speaks. And so he came out literally, I think that was shot over 3 days. And we caught some, we call B-roll, the farming and whatnot, the activities on our phones, and sent them to him. And he has a brilliant editor out in California that put it all together for us. So he's sharp as a tack. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Corey, most of the folks we've seen served are young folks. Such as what does that age range extend beyond the young folks?
It does. In fact, right before we began, I had a great conversation. So
Did
Yes, most of the folks that were in the video and our core members that are with us today are on the younger side of that scale. So what does it look like as we talk about grown children? Anne, who was in the video sharing about Buck and Kathy, just celebrated her 50th birthday. No, getting ready to. Sorry, ladies, I know you don't like to be aged. And she just lost her mother. And so we've always talked about, in fact, the beginning of that piece talked about how do I live forever to take care of my older children. And we have talked about that and just now have arrived at that bridge. And so Anne is doing as well as expected, as well as any of us could possibly be expected to do. And we're in that journey together. So I share that story because as we age, different things occur. And so Anne has hit that milestone in her life where she and her father rely on each other now. And so we're learning alongside people who are trusting us with all the ends in the world, just like we're learning with folks like Autumn, who just joined us last September 1st.
Will core members, as they become older, maybe leave the farm, still have involvement with the farm?
100%. In fact, that happens today. John Van Hine is a wonderful, he's still called the mayor, the unofficial mayor of Peace Haven. And he has lived with us. He has been off-site. He comes to visit. Our other two core members are off visiting and vacationing with their families right now. So absolutely, we hope that people come and go, and we have many boomerang stories to tell. Yes, ma'am.
How will you advertise and start building, homes and so forth? People to know about it and to say, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, how will we advertise?
Yeah. How will you market that?
Yeah, market our when we open up our homes.
There's gonna be a developer to say, this house, or this house.
We're gonna have a lot of fun doing that. And as we deepen those conversations, obviously, we'll be able to flesh out a lot more, much like when we opened up the idea of the community center to our May 2nd audience. And so that's where we are now. We're a little under the radar, and we will do that as well when housing opens, so that we can figure things out as we grow wisely, but we will definitely celebrate the opening of housing. I would argue right now, if somebody put a tent up in the front yard, there'd be 50 people wanting to come and live there because housing is such a need for all of us. The idea is that these houses are going to be so great that people will know about them. And it just so happens, like the cup of coffee example, that your home and your neighbor is somebody who doesn't look like you, doesn't sound like you. And that's a pretty rad place to be, if I can speak like I'm from the 90s. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a sense of time of how long it will be for each phase of development?
We have a sense of time and the reality of time when working through our lovely municipalities becomes a different conversation. You've talked about that a ton. Do you want to address that with the sense of time as we grow into these phases?
Sure. So we hope to break ground on the road moving back to the community center site before the end of this year. It's going to be really, really tight. We know we can't apply for a permit until November 9th at the very earliest, and I'll bore you with those details if you want. Or care about what it looks like to work with the planning departments. But so hopefully by the end of the year we'll break ground on that. We think it'll take about a year to build that community center, and we expect, depending on fundraising and the different capital stack of how we're going to build those houses, that we will probably break ground on that housing cul-de-sac within that time that we're building the community. So within the next 2 to 3 years, there will be a substantial change.
Yeah, so for the Zoom folks at home, if they're still there, I'm assuming, within the next 2 to 3 years, we hope to have that map that was shown in a very real space, whether it's the community center and housing, depends on just the overall timeline with permitting. Yes, ma'am.
So is there a plan for additional houses to purchase or groups of together?
Yeah, so what will the housing look like? Well, that's another exciting aspect because we want to be able to, again, provide what people are in need of. So it's going to be a mix of things. We're talking now about single family, multifamily, quadplex, duplex, condominium style living. based on what the level of care is for the IDD community and beyond, as well as, families that want to come and live in a wonderful neighborhood.
Do you already have fundraisers in place that you're planning, or is that sort of an ongoing project?
Love that question.
I think I said church brain, sorry.
Yeah, church brain. Fundraising, yes, there are many different levels. We obviously, like I shared, have our capital campaign. We're having some very high level major gift discussions now, which is super exciting, especially when groups like Trillium learn about us and how they can get involved from the corporate realm, but also on the individual and personal level. We have our cultivator program, which is how folks can really have a major impact with the day-to-day operations of the farm. But operations is a colder word because we don't have operations. We have people that we take care of. And so that's a monthly giving program, which is wonderful and really does a lot more than I think we all realize. And then we have an annual campaign as well, which is super fun. And things like honor cards that you all have seen before, we leverage those as well as annual, usually in the fall giving. I will share too that hopefully this will twist Joey's arm to come join us. In October, we have our harvest celebration, which is a wonderful way the entire community to come out and spend 2 hours with us and enjoy, really, without being cheesy, the things that we've harvested. And so that, I said Joey because they play a lot of wonderful music for us. And it's just a great celebration on the farm. And so that's a wonderful way to see what we're up to and how to support it. It's 10:50 if you all have your favorite seat to grab in the section. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a date set yet for that harvest festival?
Great question. Thank you for picking up the ball I dropped. Yes, October 20th, which is a Sunday from 3 o'clock until 5.
Totally free.
Totally free. Well, thank you all again. Really appreciate it. We're going to hang out. So if you have questions, well.
Thank you all very much, and thank you all for coming. See you next week.
Very good. Is it over?
Bye, Zoom. Thank you.